Once, in a world where childhood dreams were given a physical address, there stood a kingdom of wonder, symbolized by a friendly yellow giraffe named Geoffrey. The rise and fall of the Toys R Us empire is not merely the story of a retail chain's bankruptcy. It is a profound and haunting drama of modern capitalism, shifting consumer psyche, and the fatal consequences of strategic arrogance. The chronicle began in 1948, amidst the optimistic surge of the post-World War II baby boom, when a young Charles Lazarus opened a small baby furniture store in Washington, D.C. At its inception, the business was modest, but Lazarus possessed an uncanny ability to listen to his customers. He observed that while parents came for cribs, they frequently returned to ask for toys. Recognizing an untapped gold mine, Lazarus pivoted his business model with surgical precision, leading to the birth of the very first Toys R Us in 1957. This was no ordinary shop. It was a toy supermarket, a cathedral of mass consumption featuring sprawling aisles and floor-to-ceiling shelves that offered an unprecedented, dizzying variety of playthings. The company pioneered the term category killer, a phrase that sent shivers through the retail world. Local mom and pop toy stores, which had been the backbone of communities for generations, found it impossible to compete with this giant's massive scale, aggressive pricing power, and sheer volume of inventory. For decades, this titan dominated the global landscape, expanding into hundreds of countries and becoming the ultimate, non-negotiable destination for every child's birthday or holiday wish list. By the early 1990s, the company was a $12 billion juggernaut, its jingle, "I don't want to grow up," echoing in every household, seemingly invincible in its reign over the global toy industry. But behind this glittering facade of plastic, neon, and childhood joy, the seeds of a catastrophic collapse were being sown at the very dawn of the 21st century. The trajectory toward ultimate ruin was sharply accelerated by a fateful and short-sighted decision in the year 2000. In a desperate attempt to conquer the emerging and unpredictable digital frontier, Toys R Us leadership entered into what would later be described by economists as a lethal embrace with a then-growing online bookseller called Amazon. The 10-year exclusive partnership saw Toys R Us shutter its own nascent e-commerce efforts to become the sole toy provider on Amazon's platform. While this provided immediate short-term profits and saved the company the cost of building its own digital infrastructure, it was a strategic suicide. By outsourcing its digital soul, the company failed to build its own internal technological expertise or gather crucial data on the rapidly changing internet shopping habits of its customers. When Amazon eventually allowed other third-party toy sellers onto its site to increase its own variety, a bitter and prolonged legal battle ensued. Toys R Us won the right to terminate the deal in 2006, but the damage was irreversible. They had handed their future to their greatest rival on a silver platter, while remaining 10 years behind in the digital race. Simultaneously, the physical market was being cannibalized by big box retailers like Walmart and Target. These giants used toys as loss leaders, selling popular items at or even below cost to lure families into their stores for groceries and household goods. Toys R Us, specialized and rigid, could not match these predatory prices without sacrificing its already thinning margins. How does a titan survive when its walls are being breached from both the digital and physical fronts simultaneously? The definitive blow that sealed the empire's fate came in 2005 through a controversial and aggressive financial maneuver known as a leveraged buyout. A consortium of private equity firms, Bain Capital, KKR & Co., and Vornado Realty Trust, acquired the company for approximately $6.6 billion. However, the dark and suffocating reality of this deal was that the massive debt used to fund the purchase was not held by the billionaire investors, but was instead loaded directly onto the balance sheet of Toys R Us itself. Overnight, a company that had once been financially stable was shackled with over $5 billion in debt. This financial albatross paralyzed the brand's ability to innovate or adapt. Every single year, $400 to $500 million were drained from the company's operating coffers just to service the interest on this mountain of debt. This was precious capital that should have been used to modernize crumbling stores, hire more staff, or overhaul a clunky, outdated website. Instead, the physical stores began to age poorly, becoming relics of a bygone era. Stained carpets, dim lighting, peeling paint, and dusty shelves reflected a management team that was more concerned with debt management and interest payments than with maintaining the magic of a toy store. While competitors like the Apple Store were investing in the theater of retail and creating immersive experiences, Toys R Us was stuck in a 1980s warehouse model, gasping for financial air in a world that had moved on. By the mid-2000s, the retail apocalypse was in full swing, and the company's weaknesses were laid bare for all to see. Consumers were no longer content with wandering through cavernous, poorly maintained warehouses when they could summon any toy on Earth with a single smartphone tap from the comfort of their homes. Toys R Us attempted to pivot with various rebranding efforts, but the crushing weight of its interest payments made any meaningful, large-scale change impossible. In September 2017, the company officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Initially, there was a faint flicker of hope among employees and loyal customers that the brand could restructure its debts and survive in a smaller, leaner form. But the 2017 holiday season, traditionally the company's most profitable period, proved to be the final, devastating nail in the coffin. It was a disastrous performance. Suppliers, terrified that they would never be paid for their goods, began withholding shipments or demanding immediate cash on delivery. This created a terminal death spiral. Without new and exciting inventory, there were no customers, and without customers, there was no cash to pay the bills. The magic was gone, replaced by the cold reality of empty shelves and mounting losses. In March 2018, the empire finally surrendered to the inevitable, announcing the total liquidation of all U.S. stores and the termination of over 30,000 jobs. The sight of the iconic Geoffrey the Giraffe walking out of an empty store with a small suitcase became a viral, heart-wrenching symbol of the end of an era. It was not just a corporate failure, it was the extinction of a cultural landmark that had defined childhood for millions. The empty shells of the stores stood as silent witnesses to a lost world. The collapse of Toys R Us offers a somber, essential, and multi-layered curriculum for the modern business world. The first and most glaring lesson is the catastrophic danger of toxic debt and aggressive financial engineering. When a company's primary purpose shifts from serving its audience and investing in its own growth to merely serving its creditors, its demise is not a possibility, but a mathematical certainty. The second lesson is the absolute necessity of digital sovereignty and technological adaptability. By surrendering its online presence to Amazon in the early days, Toys R Us lost the chance to evolve with the digital revolution and lost its direct connection with the modern consumer. In today's economy, a company must own its relationship with the customer and the data that defines it, or it will become irrelevant. Furthermore, the fall illustrates that in the age of extreme convenience, physical retail must offer something more than just products on a shelf. It must offer an experience that cannot be replicated online. While brands like Disney turned their stores into interactive destinations where children could play and dream, Toys R Us remained a transactional, cold warehouse. They failed to realize that they weren't just selling plastic and batteries, they were supposed to be selling joy, wonder, and discovery. The final, most haunting lesson is that no brand, regardless of its history, size, or emotional connection to the public, is too big to fail if it loses its relevance and its ability to change. The giant did not fall because of one single enemy, but because it was outpaced by technology, strangled by debt, and blinded by the ghosts of its own past success. As the dust settles on the empty aisles of those once vibrant buildings, the story of Toys R Us remains a stark warning to every boardroom in the world. Heritage alone cannot guarantee a future. Evolution is not an option. It is the only means of survival. Was it the debt, the digital shift, or the loss of magic that killed the king of toys? The answer is a tragic and complex fusion of all three. This legacy of failure now serves as a blueprint for what to avoid in a world that never stops moving. The kingdom is gone, but the echoes of its collapse will ring through the halls of global business for generations to come.